Hello and welcome, everyone, to Explore Spirit, the Mindful Path to Claiming Your Power and Rocking an Authentic Life. Today we have international author, speaker, and master spiritual teacher, Maureen St Germain. I am so excited to have her with us. She has been bringing spiritual food and opening people up to their potential since 1994. She's brought her classes, her gifts, and her message globally around the world, and today she's with us with a new book. Welcome, Maureen. How are you?
I am well, thank you. Thank you for asking.
So we spoke yesterday about what you're bringing with your new book, Waking Up in 5D, a Practical Guide.
Yes, it's a very interesting thing. I have noticed in all the workshops and events that I have taught over the years that there was a gradual shift of information and focus. And we've all been focused on ascension for sure. And that ascension is not the Easter version kind, but the kind where we actually bring mastery right where we are. And I noticed that there were certain things that people were saying that I would cringe at. I'd hear somebody say something, and I would think, oh, if they would only do this. And it wasn't like I was judging them as much as I was hearing their polarity locked down in their language. And so I began to note what particular words were particularly problematic. And I discovered that there are many ways we use words to lock us into 3D, like I want the best, or I want the truth. And in 5D, there is no polarity. So there is no best, and there is no truth. And I can remember, it has to be at least 20 years ago, somebody drove through a blinding snowstorm, and they get to the class, and I say to everybody, tell me why you're here. And this woman said, well, I drove through a blizzard to get to the truth. And I remember myself saying, well, if you're looking for the truth, you're in the wrong place, because I don't do truth. I do authenticity. I teach people how to find their divine wisdom, and it's different for everyone. So there is no the truth. The truth locks us into polarity. Even though we're seekers, seeking the truth plays us back into 3D game. Isn't that wild?
Oh, it is. That is wild. And as you're saying this, I'm perceiving and feeling a box. It's exactly. Limitation, and we're not conscious that it's limitation. Like you're saying, our language is needing to change but we've been thinking that we say we're speaking unlimited language, but what you've been discovering and what has been coming into your consciousness and seeing time and again is it's still limiting.
Mm-hmm. So instead of a competition, we're the new game in town. It's a new game. So it's no longer if polarity doesn't exist anymore, that means that the game has dissolved, and we now don't need the quote game to gain that level of perception. And instead of a competition, the new game in town is a dance. And I tell everyone, you can dance alone, but it's a lot more fun and more appropriate to dance with a partner or two. And so the idea is, if you can allow yourself to be in a situation, where you're making a deal with somebody or you're, trying to buy something, if you were to think, well, I want this person to get the best deal as well as me getting the best deal, the whole energy is dramatically different. Because even when you buy a car, you want to get the best deal you can. And you tend to forget that particular focus literally pulls you out of your blissful state and into a competition to get something that you might not have gotten otherwise. And it's done innocently enough. But I'd like to tell a quick story about it, and then I'd like to talk a little bit about relationships. But I worked with a man who was driving a really nice, super expensive hot car. And he was ready to get a new one, and his son had his eye on it. And his son was finished with college and had a job, a little job, not a big job, and decided that he was going to try and buy this car from his father. Now, his father knew what he wanted for the car, and the son talked his father down. And he's telling us at work, his son got the car for, like $10K, less than what he was hoping to get on the marketplace. And the whole storyline was done in a very rueful way. And he got all done, and I just smiled at him, and I said, just think how proud you would have been of him if he'd gotten that deal from someone else. And he looked at me for a second, and then he burst out laughing, because it was true. He wanted his son to learn how to be a good bargainer and to know how to market himself or to get what's best for him. Just don't take it from me. And it's hilarious because even father and son think that they need to have some kind of, I'm going to get the most money for my car. I'm going to get the most money for my car even if it goes to my son. And there's this whole feeling of, wait a minute, we're all in this together. And if we're all in this together, then the competition ends. And if I give my son a super deal, then that means the universe is going to give me a super deal when I'm ready to buy my car. And that kind of, didn't occur to him. So, the whole thing about humanity as a whole is moving from a reality that includes polarity or good versus evil to a reality that has none of that. And, that's hard to take in. People they have to learn to be ready for it, really. Because people, even in everyday communication and circumstances, a lot of people are still looking for that sense of a win. And it's no longer about a win and a loss. It's a win and a win. I want you to win and I'm going to win. We both benefit.
We're in this, and that's part of this huge paradigm shift. We call it a paradigm shift, but it's just an incredible full energy shift that is revealing itself, and we're being asked and in ways demanded to make the shift into it. And when we do, we're really surprised, and it's like we call it synchronicity or coincidence or magic. But the thing is, it's always been that way. Is that how you feel about that? That it's always been that way? We're just remembering it?
No. I do not think that it's always been that way. And that's a misnomer to think that it has always been that way. The fact of synchronicity or coincidence has not always been there. And it is as we become more aligned with our own divinity and our willingness to be in the present moment, we are producing more synchronicity. And there's actually now a being known as the synchronicities that have come forth from the 10th dimension, and they're helping humanity find opportunities, and they're literally pulling apart time so that people can have opportunities that would not have occurred. Like in that movie When Harry Met Sally, there's a number of near misses where they either land in the same place but then they go in opposite directions, or they show up at the same place but then they don't see each other. And in the synchronicity version, all those connections would occur. So I don't agree that it's always been like that. What I believe is that we're evolving into it, and that while there are some things that have always been there, like the orbs, we're just now seeing them. As far as the energy of opportunity and synchronicity, it has dramatically changed. And it has dramatically changed because we're getting, from a scientific vantage point, we're getting hit by the photons from the photon belt, and from a spiritual vantage point, we're literally being encouraged and supported by all of heaven. So the least bit of movement in I'll call it heavenly way or a proactive spiritual way, produces an easier, faster outcome than we could have achieved if we didn't have that support. So the thing is, the energy around us, the energy we live in, the energy that we're co-creating is more conducive to all the outcomes that we're seeking than it was before.
Okay.
So, yeah, and that kind of leads up into this whole business that I was talking with you about when we planned our session together. Mm-hmm. And that was, what do you do when someone hurts you, and in 3D, we expect an apology. We teach children to apologize. We say to a little kid, you took that toy, you have to give it back. You need to apologize. And we're teaching children that a debt is owed when something occurs that impacts another. But in 5D, it doesn't matter. Now, the thing is, and this is the thing that's so interesting, in 5D, we're not going to be committing the affronts that we currently commit in 3D. So, because we're so plugged into God and to each other, I'm not going to say something to hurt you, because as I start to say it, or as I would think it, I would realize, oh, that would really hurt her. Now, it might be that I could say that same thing to somebody else and it wouldn't hurt them, but so it's very personalized. It's an awareness that gets you so lined up that it's kind of like, think about when you park a car. You assess, street parking. When you assess, is the spot big enough, all that's going on very quickly in 5D. And what's going to be okay and what's not. And the interesting thing is, because you're so plugged into God, you no longer have the desire to behave differently. And so the purpose of the book, Waking Up in 5D, is to give people the opportunity to know some of these things ahead of time so they can notice when they're behaving that way, which is a good thing, and helps them validate it. And it also helps them choose when they aren't as likely to behave a certain way. And I'll give you an example. Going back to this business of apologies for a wound or a hurt. Now, apology keeps us locked in 3D. And that's like a huge shock. You mean I don't have to apologize anymore? And the answer is no, you don't. But you do want to choose to give the nurturing response. So, for example, if you bump someone and they fall over, the nurturing response is you're going to help them get up, you're going to make sure they're okay. So you move into comfort right away. Now, the person who was injured, if they accept that nurturing without judgment, love expands for both. Because the person who did cause the harm is aware of the damage they've done, because they're both you and the other person. They can feel both people. They talk about empaths, and as an empath I can attest to this. If somebody comes into a room that's attached to my group in some way, and they're carrying a burden of their heart, I physically feel it in my body. I have physical pain. Now, the empath, when I read for people, as an empath, what I normally do is say, oh, you've got something going on with your neck, or what's wrong with your foot, or whatever. And what that does is validates their pain because I'm feeling it. But if I'm feeling it when something happens, then I don't need to apologize because I've already felt what they feel. See? It's very different.
It's literally feeling. It's literally not just feeling the connection that we're one, but no, it's really experiencing that oneness.
Yes.
It's experiencing what just happened to me. And oh my goodness, as my mind and my being is taking that in right now, it's like as we are moving into this, where we're going.
So for example, it's pretty amazing. So for example, when I have a conversation, the person I'm most likely to hear I'm sorry from is my husband, of course, because he's who I live with. But when he says I'm sorry, I say to him, I really don't prefer you saying you're sorry. I need your comfort. So for a man, when an affront occurs, now a lot of women want the apology, and the reason they want an apology because then that proves they were right, and then they have power over. which then locks back into 3D. So if you're a person, as you listen to this, and you're always expecting people to apologize for their misdeeds or their misbehaviors or the things they don't do the best that you think they could do, and you're wanting an apology, you're actually locking them into 3D by having that expectation. So unhook from that and just decide nobody has to apologize to me ever again. And what that does is changes the energy. It doesn't mean they won't acknowledge their behavior. And you know, it's not like they're not going to know that some kind of experience occurred that was painful for you. What happens is that the lack of needing an apology allows you both the freedom to receive the comfort that's being offered, and then to both of you to expand your unconditional love. You loving the person in their imperfections, and the person who was the perpetrator loving themselves in spite of their little mistake, let's say. So, and what's interesting is a man gives comfort by touch, and a woman gives comfort by words. So it's more likely that a woman would say, "Are you okay?" It's more likely a man just to, you know, hold you. So we have to take that into account as well. That, you know, that you know, because we're not going to give up male-femaleness as we become 5D. And this is why this is so unique, because this is an energetic that has never existed in all of creation. And because we carry the divine seed, the divine spark from Source itself, what we do impacts Source. You know,
yes, absolutely, yes, it does.
It works both ways. So Source is you know, has put a wall up and given us the free will zone. But then when we allow that wall to dissolve and we become one with Source, we're still going to stay in 3D and create heaven on earth.
On earth, exactly. Oh my God, that's so beautiful. Heaven on earth. There's, you know, as you're talking about, you know, men are action. Men need to do something. To where, like you said, in women, it has to be words and come through words. And saying I'm sorry doesn't mean anything. A lot of people, it's just words. It's 2 words. I'm sorry, and there's nothing behind it. And it's like you said, it locks us in 3D, but it is time to go past that. It is time to go past it into that oneness of comfort. I see that I've hurt you, or vice versa, and go into that place of comfort in sharing by touch and sharing in words.
But even I see that I've hurt you isn't the most important thing. It's the nurturing response.
Exactly.
So in other words, you are hurt. Not I see I hurt you, because that's still me, you. But when
that
you
is
say,
right.
Are you,
You're right. That
no,
is.
It's like I taught all, and this goes back into lots of ways that we interact with people. But even when my children were little, again, being a mystic, you get information and you don't even know you're using the information you get until hindsight and you begin to understand it. But when my kids were little, I taught them to say, when anyone got hurt, the first thing you say to them is, "Are you okay?" Mm-hmm. Not, "I didn't do it. It was her fault. She ran into me. She wasn't looking," whatever it is.
Right.
None of that. Just, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And what that does, that nurturing response, is enormously powerful, because what it does is it validates the individual experience, and that's all we need. We don't need to make a person right or wrong anymore. So experiences will change, and people's interactions will change, and we will suddenly care about everyone as much as we care about ourselves. And although there are many, many altruistic and beautiful, loving souls, everybody hasn't moved to the place where they care about their neighbor as much as themselves. And that's a very interesting place to be.
It takes a lot of looking at those boundaries about about what we've put up around ourselves. Like you said, the competition, the better than, the this is mine, that is yours, the separation
Yes.
that we've created, that, and yet at the same time our soul is craving the oneness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so as we become more plugged into our God energy that literally runs like a river in each of us, we become less and less needing to identify as the self. And it doesn't mean we won't want to do creative things, and it doesn't mean that we won't be individuals. What it means is that we will have such compassion that becomes our new norm. You know, and there are children, by the way, that have come in that are ascended masters. And these little ones, or even adults now, that are ascended masters, they have trouble understanding. Like when they're little kids, they have trouble understanding those toys don't belong to all of us. And even though you tell them over and over, it doesn't sink in, because from their vantage point, all the toys belong to everybody. And by the way, they're perfectly willing to share their own stuff. They just don't get it when someone doesn't want to share with them. And it truly is like a mystery to them. It's not even, what's the word I want? It's not, for them, it's not fathomable to not have everything belong to everybody. It's very curious when you start to look into it. It really makes you think about, wow. You know, things are really, really shifting. And that's why I say, you know, the rules haven't changed. We've got a brand new game going on.
We do. And there's the language is being talked about it. I think we're talking about it, but Maureen, I think what you're bringing out now, what you're saying is it's not about the language. It's a whole game that's changed, and it's accessible. I mean, it's easy for us to tap into it. How are you suggesting that we are moving into that in moment-to-moment consciousness, awareness? How do you suggest?
One way that we can do this to set the stage for ourselves every day is to ask for a day of heaven on earth for me and everyone I come in contact with. And what that does is moves us into that nurturing response as our first response. And as we put that out there, we're making it easier. We're making ourselves little ladders that allow us to get into 5D and stay there. So I tell people, ask for that every day. And the reason you ask for it every day, and this is kind of a joke to me anyway, I think it's very humorous. You know, wouldn't it be lovely if you could just say to God, look, I'm in. Send me all your angels. Send me all your support. I love you and I want to be with you and I want to be connected to you all the time. And the joke is, well, that's good for today, but tomorrow you get a clean slate. Everything you did yesterday doesn't count anymore. Today you get a clean slate, so you have to choose me again.
Oh, we don't think about that now, do we? We do not think about, it's a brand new day. I got a chance to start all over again. Oh.
That's right. And that's another thing about 5D, and that's something that people have a tough time with as well. You know, you are no longer held back by karma. There is no hold up on the creation giving you a brand new start every single day. So if you make a mistake, the wisdom isn't making the mistake. The wisdom is the choosing. Am I going to do that one again?
Yes. Oh, yeah. And that brings us into that moment awareness. Am I going to, there it is. Am I going to choose to do that again? I can choose differently. I can make a different decision here.
And the benefit of asking for a day of heaven on earth for me and everyone I come in contact with is you gain some self-awareness that you wouldn't have had right away. And initially the way it shows up is in your moments of reflection when you're laying in bed at night and you think, wow, I never used to act that way. I never used to be that nice. And you're literally noticing your behavior from your 3D place. And so you fall asleep with great appreciation and love and gratitude that you could step up. And every day that you claim that for yourself and everyone you meet, you literally say, okay, we're going to take the express. We're going to go sit in 5D and see what we can make happen. And, you know, you occasionally get pulled into 3D. Things won't go the way you want. You might be disappointed. And, you know, another thing that people do, it's hard for people to comprehend this, but when you're sensitive, you feel everything. So when people use swear words, for example, that is physically painful for me. And I had a roommate once, a woman I absolutely loved, charming, loving, spiritually advanced person, but she still uses swear words. And I sat her down and I said, look, you know, this is physically painful for me. And another time, when I was around a woman who used some pretty heavy-duty four-letter words, I looked at her and I said, you know, what's the deal? You seem pretty evolved. What's going on here? And she said, well, you know, they're just words. They could mean anything, and I'm just choosing to use them because I want to. It's a free country, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, but think about this. Everybody knows that when you pray the rosary, you're building on all the people who've ever said the rosary, and that goes back centuries. What do you think you're building on when you're using the words that people are using in hate and anger and, you know, negative energy? Don't you think you're building on that? And it was like a light bulb went on in her head, and she went, oh, my God. She just didn't see the connection between her wanting to use harsh words and the fact that if you do that, you're actually tapping into all the other people who have used those harsh words, and some of them were meaner than others. You know, it gets kind of comical when you start to add it up. Oh, my goodness. So what happens is, as we each become more 5D, we naturally get what I will call the mothering instinct. You know, and when a mom is looking after her little ones, you know, it's like she's a mama bear. You can't really do too much without her, like, don't do that, you know, that's my baby, blah, blah, blah. And so what happens is, as we become 5D, we literally become the mother to each and every person and ourselves. This is not the abdication of the self. This is not like the Buddhist principle of becoming selfless. This is about understanding that you are important, but so is your neighbor.
I just wanted to say it's becoming self-full. Self-full is because self-full, then you're full of that oneness, because there's that recognition within oneself. And then as we're in that 5D, we see the reflection of ourself in the other, and vice versa. So for me, it would be a self-full. Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Lovely.
Yeah. I love that prayer. I'm going to start using it. You know, ask that this day be a heaven on earth for me and everyone I come into contact with. It's an activation.
Mm-hmm. It is an activation, and that's
it's an activation.
Mm-hmm.
And it shifts that vibration and it kicks it into gear, and you're walking it as you walk in through your day. And then something occurs, something shifts, something perceived to go wrong. Say the prayer again. Activate it again. Oh, this is profound. This is amazing,
well, what I would
Maureen.
say to you is saying it once a day is pretty powerful. And if something goes wrong and you've already said the prayer, you're going to have an experience that isn't so wrong. You know, so like if your car's going to break down, it breaks down as you pull in your driveway because of the 5D prayer. If you run out of money, it's after you bought the last important thing you needed. And it's things like that you realize, wow, that came so close, but it was a near miss. That's 5D.
Okay.
And that,
okay.
it's like, it goes back to that reflection time that you have before you fall asleep. That's cool. That's cool.
And what you're pointing out to me right now is my own thinking. You're giving me the reflection of my own thinking, and it's subtle. It's subtle of becoming aware of our thoughts or what we're saying. And I have a lot to really think on with this. I'm looking forward. I want to read your book when it is here. So
yeah, it'll be out this year, I'm sure. And you certainly can pre-order it. Anyone who's listening, you can pre-order it. And all of my books carry some of this information because I've been channeling the Ascension messages for a very long time, and they are woven into my work. So the book that I wrote after the Merkaba work was called Beyond the Flower of Life, but anyone can use it as a tool for their ascension work. It doesn't just have to be if you're doing that particular meditation. And the same is true with the very secular book called Be a Genie. And it's a manifestation book, but it's loaded with concepts and ideas that help people choose in a way that empowers themselves and others at the same time.
And in doing that, everything you're talking about today with us, all of us that are listening, is a complete different shift in looking at claiming our power.
Yes, it is. It's very fabulous.
It's a gentle, powerful way of love, unconditional love.
And what's interesting, Niobe, what happens is when you adopt the stance of living in 5D before we've earned it, and that's basically what we're doing. We're putting on the uniform and the energy around us to keep us up in 5D because we're not always there. What it does is makes our 5D behavior the new normal, and we flow into it, so it becomes an effortless action rather than a thinking action. And I like to tell people, moving into 5D is not running the world with your heart. It's using both your heart and your mind. It's just that somebody's got to lead, and it's going to be your heart.
Because the heart is the first brain. So,
well, the way I like to teach people is, we've had a really good run using the mind, and there's a lot of benefit there, and we're not abandoning it. We're simply saying, use your mind, do all your due diligence, and then make your decision with your heart. That's very powerful.
Because your heart really is what knows the truth of what you're wanting to choose.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, this is being such an incredible, juicy, full time with you today. I am just so grateful that we're having this opportunity to be with you today. I know you're getting ready to travel, and I'm really grateful that you were able to be with me here today like we are. As we're finishing up here, what would you like to say as the last few pieces to our listeners?
Well, most certainly, if you haven't had a chance to write this down now, take your pen out and quickly write, I am asking for a day of heaven on earth for me and everyone I come in contact with. And there's a lovely prayer that allows you to give your angels and guides full authority to help you. And that's found in the book called Reweaving the Fabric of Your Reality. And I want everyone listening to know that it doesn't happen overnight. And it isn't, moving into 5D isn't like getting a driver's license that once you get it, you're there all the time. It's more like you may have a driver's license, but you don't have a car all the time. So you get to go and be 5D more and more and more. And everyone around you will benefit from you being 5D, including you.
That is absolutely beautiful and full of promise. Full of promise and hope for us. And that is many times what we need the most of is promise and hope. And Maureen St Germain, you brought that to us today in such eloquence and beauty. Thank you so much for being here with us today. You can find Maureen at maureenstgermain.com. And as she said, you can pre-order her book, Waking Up in 5D, A Practical Guide. So you will find a free gift, I do hope that
yes.
We have a gift for you. Yes?
Yes.
Do you know which one that's going to be for us, Maureen?
Yes. I have to look and see what it sells for. I don't know what it sells for right now, but this is a phenomenal gift. I've never given it away, so this is a rare opportunity to get this for free. It is a form of soul retrieval that you do by yourself, for yourself, and it's called Unify. And this particular product is a way to reclaim your lost parts of yourself that you may have broken off in order to survive a trauma. So as you examine your life or, experience physical trauma like a car accident or an emotional trauma like a breakup or someone dying, those kinds of things, we literally break off energetic pieces of ourselves and leave them behind. And in the old days, you had to have a shaman that would pull that back and blow it into you. Right. And I was taught by my higher self and my guides a method that each and every one of us can do by ourselves on ourselves. And it is remarkable and remarkably powerful. And it is so special. So this is going to be a very powerful opportunity for any of you who are listening if you pick this up, because you will be able to use this over and over and over. You'll work on one issue and then another and then another. And what will happen is little by little you will unhook from the pain of your traumas and dramas, which will then make it easier and easier for your 5D self to emerge.
Oh my goodness, that is a priceless gift. What a priceless gift, Maureen. Thank you, because like what you're saying, when we have any form of trauma, a piece of ourselves gets broken off, and bringing us back to wholeness. Oh, what generous gift for you. Thank you so much. So please, everyone, make certain that you download and take part of Maureen's gift. Oh, I think we've had a wonderful time here. Anything else that you would like to say real quickly, Maureen?
I hope every one of you who are listening can maximize the gifts that are being given to you, not only through me, but through all the teachers and this wonderful work that Niobe is doing. It's my deep pleasure to help each and every one of you.
Oh, Maureen, thank you. What a blessing. What a blessing. All right. Well, on that beautiful prayerful note, we will close for now. And those of you working with Every Day with the Summit, we will see you tomorrow, the next day. Maureen, again, thank you. And we are complete, and goodbye for today.
Thank you.